We have a very special guest with us today. Geoff Woods is the vice president of The One Thing. The One Thing is a New York Times bestseller book co-written by Gary Keller. Gary Keller is the co-founder of Keller Williams, the largest real estate company in the world. Do you think Geoff learned a thing or two working side by side with Gary? Absolutely. When you build the largest real estate company in the world, you learn a thing or two about execution. And Geoff has been brought on board in order to grow the company. Find out all the secrets and the tips. Stay tuned.
Welcome to this edition of Peak Performers Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Thor Conklin here. We give you the tricks, the tips, the tools, the strategy, the technology, and the psychology peak performers use in order to get more done and execute at the highest level. If you know what to do but struggle with getting it all done, or simply want to raise your game to the next level, this podcast is for you. Sit back and enjoy. Geoff Woods is the vice president of The One Thing. After hearing Jim Rohn's quote that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, Geoff set out on a mission to surround himself with high-level CEOs and successful entrepreneurs. Fast forward just 10 months. Geoff went from employee to entrepreneur to launching a company with co-founders of the best-selling book, The One Thing. Geoff has been featured in Entrepreneur.com and is on a mission to teach people how to live a life of focus so they can have more and do less. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know the audience is going to get so much out of today's discussion. Start us off with, how did you get hooked up with the creators of The One Thing?
Oh, man, this is
great book, by the way.
Thank you. I can't take credit for writing it, but glad to be a part of the team now. I was in medical device sales for 5 years in Southern California, which was a fantastic job. I wore scrubs every day. I was running through hospitals, selling a device that saved lives, had a really nice living, nice lifestyle. But I think, like many people in your audience, there comes a day where you look in the mirror and you realize that what you're doing is not your life's calling.
Yes.
And that's exactly where I was. I knew I was destined to own a business that made a massive impact in the world and delivered real security for my family. The challenge is I've got these nice golden handcuffs on and I'm working 30 hours a week. You know, life's really good. But then 2 things happened, which the first was a colleague of mine had a stroke. And at the time, he was only 35 years old. My wife and I had just bought a house in Orange County, just had our first child. She's a stay-at-home mom. I'm realizing that if something happens to me, that would be very disruptive to the family. And that was unsettling. The next week, my company, in order just to remain competitive in the marketplace, they had to make changes to the commission structure. But as a result, my income was slashed by 40%. That ignited a little bit of a fire in me, and that's an understatement. It was a huge fire. I knew that I needed to make a change, but I didn't know how to start a business. And that's when I heard the quote that I know you also love: you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yes.
I looked at my 5 and said, amazing people, but how many of them are business owners making a massive impact in the world and delivering real security for their family? 0. So I set out on a journey just leveraging my sales skills to surround myself with really amazing people like our mutual friend, Gene McNaughton, who used to help Tony Robbins run his organization. They started pouring into me, and I started a podcast called The Mentee, where I was the mentee, just documenting my journey from employee to entrepreneur. And 2 weeks after I launched the podcast, it was our national sales meeting. I walk into the room, hundreds of chairs scattered across the ballroom, and on every single chair is a copy of The One Thing. They bought a copy for every single person in the company.
That's great.
Yeah, and I'm going, okay, there's something here because I've never seen him do this before. And out on stage walks Jay Papasan, the co-author of The One Thing. And he's talking about the surprisingly simple truth behind extraordinary results. The simple things that Gary Keller used to scale Keller Williams from a small local real estate company to the largest real estate company in the world, and how we can live those same principles. Needless to say, if I'm looking to upgrade my 5 and this guy's knocking my socks off, I basically tackled him when he came off stage. and I interviewed him. We formed a relationship, and I just constantly sought to add value to him. And I say that for a reason, because I'm sure we're going to end up coming back to it. I constantly followed up. What are you working on? How can I help you? What are you working on? How can I help you? And one day he replied and said, Gary Keller and I are looking for a CEO for a new company. And I said, I know a lot of people. I'm a super connector. That's my strength. Let's talk so I can connect you to the right person. Just trying to add value. And when we got on the phone and he told me what they were looking for, I realized I was the guy. And I threw my name in the hat, got the job, and moved to Austin, Texas to partner with Gary and Jay.
That is awesome. I'm getting the sense that you and I have been separated at birth, because when you talk about being a super connector, it's like, that's me. That's exactly what I do. And I go into those relationships not trying to figure out what I get, but what I can give. And it just blows people away. And what blows me away is what comes back. A couple of years ago, I had one of these connectors send me a 6-figure check just out of the blue. It was like, I didn't do it for that reason, but it's amazing what flows back. So,
oh yeah, when I rewind back to when income is slashed, I know I'm destined to build something really big. In my heart, I know it, but I cannot figure out what that first step is. So I just said, let me at least get in the room with the people who have already taken those steps. And I opened up my wallet and I started attending events and masterminds. And the highest level people in the room always showed up looking to give instead of looking to get. And that struck me so hard that it's who I am in my bones now. That was the first thing that I took and said, no, this will be a part of me. And that's been the driver of everything.
Yeah. And what I find these people also, that they're very quiet. They're sociable, but they're not out there trying to promote themselves and be the center of attention. They play down who they are and what they're doing because they're not there to say, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me.
Oh, yeah. A mentor of mine said it really perfectly. He said, you have to be more interested than interesting.
Yeah.
You have to be more interested in them than trying to get them to think that you're interesting. And as a result, they'll end up freaking thinking you're interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. Growing up, I was a caddy when I was like 13 years old, and it was a very exclusive club in New Jersey. And the people that were the ultra wealthy, you never knew it. They drove the Chevys. They showed up at the club. They were just they'd walk through a room and you had no idea who they were. And I remember one day I had a chance to caddy for Emirata Hess, the owner of Hess Oil, and you would never know. But the guys that ran around the club going, "Hey, look at my new Ferrari! Look at those are the guys that were doing it all on credit."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look at the true scorecard of the wealthy, their net worth, and it will be different.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about the podcast. You told me why you started it. What's the interesting lessons that you learned throughout the process?
I learned the value of not putting myself on a pedestal and saying I'm some guru, I'm some expert. Right off the bat, I said, I'm not the mentor. I'm just like you. I'm the mentee. And I'm going to record the real conversations with my mentors who happen to be Fortune 500 CEOs, just by chance. I record the conversations when my marriage is falling apart and I blame my wife and my mentor slaps me across the face and says, bro, it's all you. It's all the things that we all go through as high achievers, but seldomly talk about. So I just learned the importance of being vulnerable and how powerful that is because we all have dirty laundry.
Yeah.
Nobody's shit doesn't stink.
Yeah. So
how about we talk about it so that we can help one another?
Yeah. That's great. You just give me an idea for a new book. And
there you go.
The book opens up and it's a workbok that says, write down your issue. And the next page tells you what the answer is. And each answer
Your fault.
It's you. Or there's like a little mirror in there. Here's the problem. It's you. And that's really what it comes down to so often. And you talked about surrounding yourself with, 5 people. Something that I learned just recently in the last 6 months, I realized that one of those 5 is always me. And I realized, and I asked myself, although I'm always working on raising my game to the next level, I realized that person, me, is always going to be in the mix. And I've got to take the lead and figure out how I'm the best version of me every day.
I'm grabbing a piece of paper and writing that down because I have never thought of that, and you just gave me a million ideas to go off on.
Yeah. So, run with it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. When you said run with it, did you mean literally right now?
No, stay here. We have more content to go through. But run with it, make $1 million, and send me a copy of the book.
That's right.
Perfect. So what are some of the other aha moments or those things that in discussions with your mentors, what you picked up in those and what made for a successful relationship between the mentors and you?
I think the easiest way to boil it down is to say that I know a lot about you simply by the fact that you're listening to this show, that you follow Thor. Like, I know you are a high achiever. Now, you've got two ways that you can accomplish your goals. You've got the easy way and the hard way. And if I laid those choices out to you just like that with that much information, which one are you going to choose?
The easy way.
Easy way, every time. Yet, what we do not realize is almost unconsciously every day, most people choose the hard way. They set goals, they put an action plan in place, and they run through walls. They make a lot of mistakes, they make pivots, and they keep moving. As a result, they end up making a lot of mistakes, wasting a lot of time. What I realized doing the podcast was the easy way is look at where you want to be. Now identify the people that have already done it. Surround yourself with them to the point where they can reverse engineer the steps for you and say, hey, I know you think this is step one. That's right. But what you do not know is that right after step one, there's this obstacle that you're going to encounter, and it's going to require a powerful strategic alliance. Let me introduce you to the person that may be able to help you there. And then when you get to step two, you're going to think you need to do this, but really you need to go in this direction because otherwise you're screwed.
So important.
Yeah, they end up saving years and years of your life. And you just get there faster. That was the biggest surprise to me. I just leaned into it. I didn't know that that's what was going to happen, but my goal was to go from employee to entrepreneur. I thought I might do it in 5 years. Because I leveraged the mentorship, I did it in 10 months.
That is awesome. You know, it's interesting. We were talking earlier about Tony Robbins, and that is the thing that he says was his biggest success factor. Modeling. And he says it all the time. And it's funny because you know, I'm a senior leader for the organization, and I'll have a group of participants, and they'll come in and they're like, well, what do I need to do? Model. Oh, yeah. But what else? Model. Okay. Mm-hmm. There's some other things, but listen, it's people try to complicate things and go, okay, yeah, I heard that, but what else is there? There's this constant treadmill of, I need more information. No, just start executing on what you already know. Start taking it down into bite size.
In all my interactions with Gary Keller, he is constantly asking the question, what are the models that are already out there? How can I take all of them, make my own? Then how do I build a system around the model so that one day I can step outside of the system and someone else, an empire builder, can step in and run that system and scale it to the biggest opportunity that they could possibly imagine? That's how he built Keller Williams.
What an incredible organization. For those that are not familiar with The One, give them a little bit of a taste of what the book's all about.
So The One thing is about focus. It's about priority and productivity. The surprisingly simple truth behind extraordinary results is simply identifying the one thing that you can do such that by doing it makes everything else easier or unnecessary. Now, here's a really easy way to break it down. Everybody here has heard of the 80-20 rule. The idea that 80% of your results come from just 20% of your efforts. So if you had 25 tasks, the 20% would be just 5. Gary has encouraged people to go even further and saying, of those 5, what is number 1? Gun to your head, you only get to do one thing. What is the one thing that you can do such that by doing it makes all those other things easier or unnecessary? And making sure that you knock down that lead domino first. I'm an entrepreneur, and of all the entrepreneurs I've surrounded myself with, we all have this shiny object syndrome. We get really excited when there's a new shiny opportunity and we get distracted and we'll start going down that path. And this happened to me early on in my interactions with Gary. I remember I had a new vision for our company. I walked into our board meeting and I'm on the flip chart. And I say, all right, this is our big goal for the year. And these are the 3 things that I'm going to do to accomplish that goal in order of priority. That was my business plan. 3 things fit on one sheet of paper. I start talking about number 1. Gary asks a bunch of questions. I answer him. I say, we good? He goes, yeah. I start talking about number 2. About halfway through, Gary stops and starts asking questions about number 1 again. I don't think anything about it. I just answer the questions. And I say, are we good? He goes, yeah. I finish up number 2 and I start getting into number 3. And he goes back to number 1 and asks more questions there. At this point, I'm like, okay, I thought we covered this, but clearly not this question. So I answer it. I go, we good? He says, yeah. I get back into number 3 and I'm talking about it for no more than 10 seconds before he stops me and says, quick question. Do you need to accomplish number 3 to accomplish number 2? I said, no. He said, do you need to accomplish number 2 to accomplish number 1? I said, no. He said, then do me a favor. Draw a line between number 1 and number 2, or better yet, cross it off. In fact, rip the piece of paper in half, crumple up number 2 and 3, throw it in the trash, and don't even think about it again until you have mastered number 1, because you haven't earned the right to even think about number 2 or number 3 until you've done number 1. Now, for those of you who are listening, how many, if you look at your priorities, what percentage of your time are you investing in your one thing versus trying to advance other priorities that aren't truly that lead domino? That is what it takes to scale an empire.
Great advice. It's funny. I look back at a document that I created, almost 20 years ago, and it kept growing and morphing. And it was really my vision for my life and what I wanted to accomplish and the goals for the year, the 5-year plan, the 10-year plan. And it got up to 53 pages. And I was so happy about this. It's like I captured everything. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm just not getting this stuff done. There's like too much. Mm-hmm. And the moment where I just said, this doesn't matter right now. Focus on what is important. Now, I haven't gotten it down to one thing. I've got it down to 3, and that's all I'm focused on. That's it. What's interesting here is, I want to go back to this as well. Focus. Everybody complains about focus, or most people say, I need more focus. I'm not focused. What are some of the techniques that you've learned to help people focus?
It comes down to your environment. So in the book, they talk about the thieves and the lies. When you want to really focus, there are certain things that you have to do. And one of the first ones is what they refer to as building a bunker. When you look at your workspace, is it set up inherently for you to focus? Or are there things there that are going to distract you? Are people easily able to come in with the random gotta minutes or the phone calls? We in the back of the book now, there's a little door hanger that comes that says, I'm doing my one thing. I forget the exact verbiage of it, but it basically says, go away. I'm busy. This is my one thing time. And it's used throughout Keller Williams to the point where if that's on your door, if that's on your cube, people do not talk to you because they know you're doing your one thing. So can you establish that perimeter? Sweeping for minds is when you get inside the bunker and you're looking for those things that are going to pop up, like, is your email open? If you should be doing something else, then why is your email open? Close it down. Is your phone on do not disturb? Do you store provisions? What are I'm the type of guy, I'm like a thirsty camel in the desert. I drink so much water, it is ridiculous. When I'm about to go into a time block and get my most important work done, I make sure my water bottle's filled up first because I know 5 minutes in, I'm going to have to stop what I'm doing, go fill up my water bottle, come back 5 minutes later, I'm going to realize I need to go to the bathroom, I'm going to stop again. All those little interruptions, they waste 28% of your day. We've studied it. When you have these interruptions, it adds up to about 28% of your day stolen, lost, gone. What could you do with 28% more time?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's funny. I added to my desk dental floss because dental floss. Because I realized that I was going into the bathroom to use the dental floss and it became like a separate task or activity. But it's right when it's on my desk, if I have lunch at my desk or doing whatever, when I'm done, I can floss anytime I want to. I can look at emails and floss. And I'm
okay, now I'm understanding why you have such exceptional teeth in this picture I'm staring at.
It's the dental floss on the desk. But I'm like, if I want to do something, obviously I've got water on my desk all the time and I'm just like you. But I realized it was like I was making that a separate task and I had to leave my zone, my command center. I'm like, if I want to floss my teeth more, why don't I have my floss here?
Oh, yeah.
You know what? I got an idea. We set up a desk with a sink and a toothbrush and maybe like a kitchen setup as well. We don't have to move to prepare our food.
We've had some executives inside of Keller Williams go as far, like they're thirsty camels like me, and they have moved water coolers into their office.
Yeah.
So they don't even have to open the door and go out, because what happens the moment you step outside your office? Someone comes up with the God a minute. We call that getting sniped, and it's your fault.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk also about this one thing. What I find with people that I work with is they're always attacking the symptom as opposed to the problem, that really getting to that one thing. They think they've gotten to it, but they haven't peeled the onion back far enough. What are some of the techniques on really figuring out what that core issue is?
Okay, so when I first came on board here, Gary and Jay said, hey, the book's done really well. It's sold about 800,000 copies in the last 3 years, which for anybody who's not inside the book world, that's really freaking good. And they said, now go build a company around it. And so we surveyed our list and said, what's the one thing we can do to help you next? And people said time blocking, the act of just putting time on their calendar, scheduling an appointment with themselves to do their most important work. Sounds really simple, yet most people do not have a habit of doing it consistently. And so now we've worked with close to 500 people to make time blocking one of their power habits. And one of the things that really surprised us is that people did not narrow their focus enough. This is something in the book we refer to as extreme Pareto. You got 25, you narrow it down to the 20% of that, which is 5. And then narrow it to the 20% of that, which is 1. And can you continue to narrow it down to the point where it is a specific, measurable activity? Example, this woman, Peggy, she really wanted to transform her business. She's in real estate, and she knew the one thing she could do to transform her business was lead generation. To have a time block every single day that she lead generated. She knocked out on the phones. As she got into lead generation, she realized she was always tired. And when she was on the phone, she lacked confidence. And when she started digging deeper and asking why she lacked confidence, she realized it's because her health was in shambles. She was overweight, she had bad eating habits, low energy, and when she looked in the mirror, she wasn't proud of the woman that she saw. So what she really realized is that in order for her to even show up as an authentic leader in her business, she first had to be able to look in the mirror and be proud of the woman that she saw. And the one thing she could do for that was to transform her health. So she's like, okay, I got to start going to the gym. But then nothing happens. She narrowed it down even further. What's the one thing I can do such that by doing it will make getting to the gym easier or unnecessary? She narrowed it down so specific to the point where her one thing was that during the weekday, by 4:57 p.m., she was in her gym clothes and out the door. And she gave her staff permission that if she was not there, to get her there. Fast forward 6 months, she lost 20 pounds and completely transformed her image. And as a result of having more energy, having more confidence, her business exploded. So to summarize, the biggest mistake that people make is that they don't narrow their focus enough. They don't continue to ask if there is a specific measurable activity that is black and white, yes or no, I did or did not do this. What is that one little thing that I can do, not want to do, should do, my wife tells me I should do, I can actually do it, such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I was working with someone just recently, and we determined that they needed to get in the office by 6 a.m. And they're like, I'm having a hard time doing that. Well, why? Because I'm not getting up at 5. Why aren't you getting up at 5? I'm not going to bed until midnight. Why aren't you going to bed till midnight? Well, I'm sitting up watching TV and having a glass of wine. Okay, so what do we need to eliminate? The wine and the TV.
Yep, there you go.
Right? It's not about setting the alarm and getting, more diligent or getting motivated or inspired to get up at 5. Eliminate all the stuff that's adding up to and preventing it. It's like kind of like, I like to talk about, people try to fix their problems by stepping on the gas, but the emergency brake's pulled.
Correct.
It's like, don't do that. Thank you so much for listening today. I really do appreciate your time, and I hope you found today's show valuable. If you would like to receive these shows automatically to your phone or to your computer, simply go to iTunes and subscribe. After listening to several of the shows, if you're so inclined, please leave us a 5-star rating, as this helps us reach additional people and spread the message. If you're truly committed to taking your life to the next level and doing whatever it takes to become a peak performer, but something's holding you back, something is blocking your way, and you just can't seem to figure out what it is, send me an email to info@thorconklin.com, and I'd be more than happy to get on the phone with you. We'll schedule a 15-minute discovery call No obligation, no cost. I absolutely love to hear from the listeners, and if there's something I can do to help, I'd be more than happy to do that. Also, if you found something of great interest in today's show and you want to share that with your friends and family, simply go to my Facebook page, Thor Conklin, click on the episode, hit the share button, and share it on your page. You can follow me at Twitter at Thor Conklin. The website is thorconklin.com. We're constantly adding new free resources, discussing additional tricks, tips, tools, and strategies on how to be a peak performer. Remember, I try to keep these episodes short so you can listen to them during dot time, doing other things, commuting, driving, walking, working out. Decide to be a peak performer in all that you do. And until tomorrow, have an absolutely amazing day. That concludes part 1 of our interview with Geoff Woods. Please stay tuned later this week for part 2.